All right, with week 2 on the way here, Tyler. Actually, week 2's already started. We got to talk about it, man. Obviously, we saw a Thursday night game between the Dolphins and the Bills, and unfortunately for Dolphins fans, it was already getting ugly. We saw a lot of bad throws from Tua, some interceptions, some unlucky passes, and then probably the worst case scenario for Dolphins fans and just Tua Tagovailoa himself in general suffered another concussion. And obviously, this is much bigger than the sport of football. You're talking about a young man who has a family, a young man who has a life to live, and there's a lot at stake here when it comes to Tua, and there's a lot of sensitivity around this topic, rightfully so. But we saw Mike McDaniel come to the podium a little bit later, a little shaken up. A lot of speculation about this man, about his career. First of all, prayers up. Obviously, we want to see Tua get well, Tyler, but what's your thoughts about Tua Tagovailoa right now, just given his situation?
Yeah, I mean, it's always like it's a sensitive topic, like you said, but at the end of the day, we also our job is fantasy football, and we gotta be able to assess the situation and talk about it. And obviously, like I think that what he should do is retire. Like I just think that like it's much bigger than football. Obviously, like these guys are super, super competitive. They want to play, but like the way these concussions happen for him, it's just like they don't seem like normal concussions. And like maybe all concussions are the same. I'm not a doctor, I don't know, but his seem pretty severe. Where I just think it would be like malpractice if he's like out there anytime soon. Like they should just keep him away from the game for a little bit here. Honestly, what I think was going to happen, I have no idea. Like I really don't know what's going to happen with this situation because I wouldn't be shocked if he's out there in a couple of weeks. I wouldn't be shocked if he does end up, calling it quits. I have no idea what to anticipate here. What I will say is that if he ends up walking away like this, or just he's out for a while here, and we get Skylar Thompson, like this just kind of it's not good for this offense, in my opinion, for the pass catchers. I
Yeah.
this is
Well,
definitely
before we get into hold on, before we get into like this offense, dude, I kind of want to talk a little bit extra about Tua.
okay.
I think I think this is one of those scenarios, dude, where you look at it and you're like, as people, me and you as commentators, we're gonna say, retire. That's what you should do. And I think it's the right thing mentally, but we're also talking about a group of individuals who are warriors, a
Yeah.
group of individuals who mentally feel like they're invincible. And
Mhm.
even though it's the quarterback position and we look at Tua, maybe he doesn't have the look of guys that's, like a JJ Watt. He doesn't have the look of
Or
just
Josh
a big
Allen.
burly guy. Yeah, exactly. He doesn't look like Josh Allen. He's still mentally that same capacity. That's who he
Yeah.
is as a player. And we've already gone through this with him. He said he doesn't want to retire. He said he wants to continue playing football. There was calls last time for him to retire. And seeing this on the field, it's tough for us watching it mentally. There was calls. I'm sure people want to see DeMar Hamlin like, hey, you shouldn't be back on the field.
Yeah.
These guys want to play. And when you talk about a multi-million-dollar career, it's tough to just walk away from $60-50 million a year that Tua's going to, like, that's your family. That's setting you up for life. And that's a tough thing to walk away of. You just signed that this offseason. So I can speculate all I want, but I have, and I don't, this is all speculation.
Yeah.
It seems to me this is a guy who loves playing football. And, sometimes in the moment you're putting the otherworldly things ahead of your health, especially
Yeah.
knowing you're playing football. So I don't know if he comes back this year. I think this year is a little too soon for him to come back. And I think it would be a lot on this team to risk that, especially Skylar Thompson is not able to bring this team to victory. I think it's a lot to risk with Tua this year, especially we saw them do that before.
Mhm.
But it would not shock me to see him either in one of the new helmets with the neck thing, just something more protective next year, which this player, Tua should have been wearing that shit
I
already.
don't know why he wasn't wearing. Yeah, like I don't understand
The Guardian cap.
the
He should
Guardian
have been
cap.
in that.
Yeah.
But it would not shock me to see him back on the field next year. And, honestly, it's not up to us what he does, but I just want the best for him, and at the end of the day, like we've seen Brett Favre say he had 1 million concussions, 1,000 concussions in his career, a lot of ex-players. So I don't know. I know
I'm
these
sure a
guys
lot of people have concussions all the time. It's just like they don't have the, the rigor mortis or whatever Tua has when he
Yeah,
when he
the fencing.
unfortunately, yeah, like the fencing. So it looks way all concussions are bad though. Like all concussions, whether or not you actually get reported with a concussion or not, like they're not good. It's not good for the brain to have this
Right.
trauma, the jarring. So it like all concussions are bad in general. So you think that he won't even be back this season?
I don't see a world where he comes back. Even if they're like playoff contention, just the game's gonna get more violent. He's gonna need reps. I think it's a tough ask for a player who visibly was shaken up, family was shaking up, team was shaken up. That's a lot to ask for a player this year and has to make a very difficult decision about continuing his playing career, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
I think, as far as Tua goes, it's one of those things where he's going to have to make that decision. But this
Yeah.
offense is still going to be here. This team is still going to be here. And they have Skylar Thompson now at the helm. And it's one of those things, Tyler, where this is not good for anybody in this Miami offense, in my
Yeah.
opinion. We got Tyreek Hill, Jaylen Waddle, Devon Achane. These are elite fantasy assets that we considered at least heading into the year. And they're going to be affected. I don't think there's any other way to put that. How do you feel about this offense now that Skylar is going to be at the helm?
I I don't know. I like because all right, here's the problem with the Miami Dolphins, and this kind of always been the problem, right? Is that just when they get in these games against the good teams, they don't perform like a good team. They're just not up to it, and they lose these games. I want to say it's now 5 in a row, I believe, against Buffalo that they've lost. So
Yeah.
it's just they don't win these games, unfortunately. And honestly, I do think that with Skylar Thompson, this offense does take a slight step back, but I do think in games with like lower competition, that honestly, I think this offense can still hum. I still think that they can put up points. But in these like tougher games, like the games against the Jets, definitely like that would be a week where it'd be pretty tough to start a lot of these guys. But like going forward, I still think that this offense, obviously, it takes a slight step back, but I'm not as like I'm not fully panicking because I do believe in Mike McDaniel's. I believe in these playmakers. I believe in his ability to get them the ball when they need to get the ball. It's just against the really tough teams. I don't know what their schedule looks like. But against the really tough teams, yeah, I would say that it's not good against those tough teams, but like against majority of the league, honestly, it's probably not going to be as bad.
Yeah, they play in the AFC. The AFC East already has some tough defenses. The AFC in general has some tough defenses and can be some bruising battles. So I think we see a lot more inconsistency with this team. And,
Yeah.
I think when you go through the Dolphins, it's like they've already kind of been an inconsistent team at time. It's like it feels like first half they're really consistent. Second half they go
Hmm.
to the ground game as far as for fantasy options. But I think it just brings a little bit more inconsistency and trust to players that we come to expect to trust. Tyreek Hill is a player, obviously, at the top of that list where a lot of people are going to wonder about his value now. Like, is he a rock solid wide receiver one? And I already had concerns about Tyreek Hill, the player, obviously coming in with the fantasy playoff schedule in the second half. But this just brings even more questions now. And it kind of depends on if Tua does see the field, unfortunately, how consistent he will be. I still have him as a wide receiver one. I just think he's a tier below your Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Cooper Kupp now. He's probably replaced him in that spot. I think he brings a little bit more inconsistency to what he's able to produce, but we'll still see some of those 150, 100-yard games. I think
Yeah.
Skylar can still produce some of those.
When do you think that we'll know about Tua?
I think we'll have an update if he goes on IR here soon. I think we'll know within the week. They'll put him on IR, give him a chance to get fully recovered. I don't know we'll have a decision on the season until we find out the impact to this record. If the team starts out 1-5 and Tua is just like hasn't spoken yet or I think we'll know when Tua speaks what the decision is for the year. I think we'll have a very clear indication of like, I want to get back on the football field. I'm going to take the time that I need for me and my family. Like, you typically hear something that lets you know, all right, I'm doing everything I can to get back, or this is going to be a lot longer than all of us anticipated. You there with me, or like you think he's coming back this year? I don't know.
I I wouldn't be shocked, no. And it's like I said, I think it's best that he probably I think it like we can sit here and we say, I think it's just best that he steps away. But once again, like you talked about, like he's a competitor. Like these guys, they put like truly their lives on the lines to play this game. I mean, we saw with Damar Hamlin, like they put their careers, they know the CTE, they know all of this stuff. They don't like they want to play the game that they love. And I think I think the only way it doesn't happen is like his family just really urges him to stop, and like he ends up stopping. But like I think that he's just like you said, a natural competitor, a guy who's gonna be out there, and as long as he can be out there, I think he'll honestly be out there. But I do think it kind of comes down to the family and what his family discusses and everything. But they're like, go ahead and do you. I think he'll honestly be back out there this year. I would not be shocked.
We'll say he doesn't come back out there. And there's also, we talked about Tyreek Hill for a second, but there's also a couple other options on this team. Jaylen Waddle and Devon Achane obviously are the next two in line there. Devon Achane had a mega game for your fantasy teams in week 2 against the Bills. And obviously this is a player who has explosive potential on any given week. Are you shooting down his value at all? Does it increase? Are you kind of stuck where you're at with them? Like, where are you at with Devon Achane?
I think it sticks. I don't know what Mike McDaniels was doing though. Like 29 touches for Devon Achane is insane. I mean, I love it, but I honestly don't even love it because I don't think you're talking about a guy who is on the injury list coming into this week, and it's a short week, and it's a 29 touches. Like I told some people like they're obviously like, should I start Alexander Madison, Jeff Wilson kind of stuff. Like I was like, go Jeff Wilson, because I thought apparently Jeff Wilson was dealing with an injury too.
Yeah, he left the game too.
Yeah, so but I thought Jeff Wilson and Jaylen Wright would be more involved throughout the game, but it was just clearly Devon Achane. They fed him the rock a lot. I think that he's pretty safe. Right where he is, in my opinion, is a mid RB1 with high end RB1 upside, just because the explosiveness that he offers. So I'm not worried about him. I would be a little bit worried about like Jaylen Waddle though, just because like obviously you have Tyreek Hill here. He's the true number 1 wide receiver. I think Jaylen Waddle is an absolute stud, but can what's his name?
Skylar
Thompson. Yeah. Truly, I was thinking of Tristan Thompson, but that's the NBA player. Can he truly support 2 wide receivers? Like I don't think so. I think it's just really going to be Tyreek Hill and Devon Achane. So I'm a little bit worried about, obviously, depending on what happens with Tua. But if it is going to be Thompson for the rest of the year, I would be worried about Jaylen Waddle.
Yeah, I'm Waddle enters like back in the mid-tier wide receiver 3 territory to me. Like just those inconsistent wide receiver 3. So you're gonna have a tough time starting, especially when the matchup is tough. Devon Achane to me is still a top 15 RB and probably has upside for a lot more than that weekly, just depending on the matchup, because they're not going to move the ball as efficiently. I trust Mike McDaniel, and I think that he's a great play call. I think that he runs a great offense, but I still have my doubts about their ability to support a 25 to 30 point scoring average without having Tua there. So I'm sure they'll get things figured out in Miami. It is a little dire, and obviously the most important thing is seeing Tua get right. But for fantasy purposes, this is a team that now does become a little bit more risky on a week-to-week basis, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
As far as another team that's dealing with quarterback injury, Jordan Love is out for the next 3 to 6 weeks for the Green Bay Packers. They are dealing with some injuries of their own. But now we get Malik Willis starting. So very similar type of situation to the Dolphins, where we get a backup, unproven backup, a guy that hasn't really looked great in starting role before. Malik Willis obviously offers a lot of rushing upside, but there was a lot of questions heading into this year about who was the number 1 receiver on this Packer team, and who, Jayden Reed, we saw him play really well in week 1. We saw Christian Watson get a touchdown. Hype for Dontavian Wicks. Didn't see Romeo Doubs play well. Like, what's your overall thoughts now on this Packer offense in the meantime until Jordan Love gets healthy?
Not good. I think that Malik Willis, like we've seen Malik Willis, he's been dreadful. Obviously, like you can say this is a better offense than what he's been on, but I want to say his highest passing total that he's played is 99 yards. And he threw 2 interceptions in that game as well. Like, I just think, I don't know why the Packers thought it was a good idea to trade for him and make him the RB or wide receiver 2, or not quarterback 2. Geez.
Yeah.
For this team. Like, I think that there's just better options out there, and maybe he surprises us. I don't know. Maybe, this is a better fit for him with LaFleur here. So I'm just not overly excited at all. Like, I moved Jayden Reed way down my rankings. I really want no part of this Packers passing offense whatsoever. The only guy that obviously would be Jayden Reed, just because like they manufacture him touches. They'll get him some rushing attempts in there, some little screens there for him as well. So like, he's the one guy that I'm okay with just maybe starting, depending on what my other options are. And then Josh Jacobs, I do think that's going to be a very run heavy team. So I think that Josh Jacobs will get the ball a lot. Does that translate to fantasy points? I don't know, but I do think that he's going to see a lot of work in these coming weeks without Jordan Love there.
It's going to be ugly for this offense, a lot different than with Jordan Love. There's an outside chance Matt LaFleur hasn't completely ruled him out. I don't think he's playing, but Matt LaFleur hasn't completely ruled him out for this week. So I think the anticipation is that Jordan Love may have been safer than it initially looked. I know there was a lot of concern about the ACL, and obviously all that was intact. So good for him. But this offense is not going to look the same. And I'm on the same page with you when it comes to Jayden Reed. He's the only player I'd feel good about because they get him a lot of stuff at the line of scrimmage. He has good yak ability. So he's a flex at best for me right now, where I had him in the wide receiver 3 range, maybe a little bit more upside than that on a weekly basis. He's on the flex radar in your deeper leagues. Other than that, you have a better option on your team. You do. And, you talked about it. Malik Willis has yet to throw over 100 yards in a football game. So for me, it's like trying to find more than that in this offense is asking for way too much. Stay away. You talked about, there's two things. You talked about Josh Jacobs, and I think he'll play good, obviously, in this game. They're going to need him. Maybe not as effective as we want. But the one interesting thing for me was during the offseason, there was a lot of hype about Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft, and we're seeing both of those guys get involved now. And it's almost to a point now where Tucker Kraft might be the tight end 1 for this team. And there was, Jordan Love he is the tight end 1 for this team. Jordan Love had some chemistry with Luke Musgrave, but that's been an interesting thing, Tyler, is just kind of seeing these tight ends. It looks like we got a dual tight end thing here. Probably neither of them are worth starting, but like Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave, if you drafted Luke Musgrave hoping for a breakout year, he's a drop. Like it's a clean drop in my opinion, even with tight end being so weak.
Yeah. No, 100%. I want to say that Luke Musgrave or Tucker Kraft played 95% of the team snaps week 1. Like, he's the clear, and I believe Luke Musgrave only played 17 snaps. So he's the clear cut tight end 1. Now, I was looking, was Luke Musgrave hurt or anything like that? And there was nothing. So I just think it's kind of the move. Now, maybe this week is different and Musgrave ends up getting, I have no idea, but it was clear week 1 that Tucker Kraft is the team's tight end 1. And I will say, like, if you're a team that, you had David Njoku or Jake Ferguson, I do think that he is a player that I would stash because Jordan Love is coming back. Like, he is coming back, and he might have value as the season progresses because we saw him at times last year when Luke Musgrave was out of the lineup. He had some good games there. So he's a guy that I would personally stash, or maybe you just, you drafted, I don't know, Tyler Conklin or somebody like that. You just absolutely waited on the position. So he's somebody I would definitely stash, though, going forward.
Yeah, I'm not, there's not a lot of room to go around with this offense. It's tough, but he did have moments last year, and I'm sure he'll have some moments this year because it looks like the Luke Musgrave thing did not work as we all anticipated. No. And as far as Malik Willis, if you have a super flex league, I think it's, that's dire straits. If you had Jordan Love and there was nobody else out there, I would stay away from Malik Willis. And to be honest, in your super flex leagues, there's a reason it's called super flex. You have the option of starting somebody else. If you have a better bench option, put them in the game. Another struggling offense from week 1 that they somehow got the win, though, the Chicago Bears, bruh. In that same division, Chicago Bears, 98 passing yards for Caleb Williams in his debut. He did get the win. But if you watched the game and you were paying attention, this was not a good offensive effort. This was not a great team win. This was a, Titans kind of giving this game away win for the Bears. A lot of concerns about the Bears offense. Now, Caleb Williams is going to struggle a little bit. This offensive line is not very good. The Titans were able to get pushed at will against this team. The options right now, Keenan Allen's banged up. Rome Odunze's banged up. We got DJ Moore playing. DJ Moore isn't, he's not this great separation guy, in my opinion. I think he does well after the catch and can make plays. And then DeAndre Swift is not really the best running back for this team. It's just, I don't really see a lot early on with this team, and maybe you can inspire some optimism and talk a different way about this offense. But I think this is an offense that's going to struggle at least for the first half of this year until they get things figured out.
Yeah, I mean, after what we saw week 1, it's hard to really trust these guys in my starting lineup. Like, I definitely wouldn't be starting DeAndre Swift right now.
Nah, I've seen him get dropped in the league.
Did you really? I mean,
Yeah.
I'd pick him up. I don't think I'd drop him
How
because I
much
do
fab
think
would
this.
you? Hey, if he was out there, how much fab would you spend on DeAndre Swift right now? If he was available, how
I
much
mean, it
fab you
depends
put
on
on
what
him?
my running back situation would be like, but I would spend a lot just because that's a team starting running back, and
Yeah.
like I still believe that this Bears offense will get better. Like, it was Caleb's first game. Obviously, the offensive line did not look good, but you're also talking about Tennessee. That Tennessee honestly has good interior defensive linemen. So
Yes.
it's
Underrated
a
too.
yes, it's honestly it's a pretty good front seven there in Tennessee. So they had like I don't want to underplay like how bad Caleb played because he did play horrible. But he is a rookie quarterback. Like, none of those rookie quarterbacks really played that well. Like, Jay Daniels was okay, but a lot of garbage time for him. And I think that Caleb will get better as the season progresses. I still don't feel bad about like starting DJ Moore and Keenan Allen depending on who else I have. Like, if I have a pretty good option, then sure. But if I'm sitting there and I got to decide between like, I don't know, a flex play between like DJ Moore or like people drafted Zamir White in the 7th round, I mean, I'm easily playing like DJ Moore, Keenan Allen over Zamir White. So yeah, I don't. I think that this offense will get better. Who do they play this week?
This week they got Houston on Sunday night, and it's gonna
Oh
be a
yeah,
tough
yeah.
ass game for them, man. So
That's a tough matchup. Yeah.
Tennessee was tough for them, and it's like they're
Yeah.
gonna look, I think they're gonna look bad again. Like
Yeah, they might. But
they
I still would feel okay because Keenan could have had a really big day. Caleb
yes.
missed him on a couple of throws. I don't know about DJ Moore. DJ Moore had, I want to say, had the best day out of them. He probably could have even had a bigger day. Like, Caleb just looked very skittish out there. Um,
The
I still
problem with
think that.
me, the big problem with Caleb to me is that he had his Heisman year. And then last year he looked kind of vulnerable, right? At USC, like he looked kind of vulnerable. There was times where he didn't show up when we expected him to, had some bad games. And there was talk like maybe he's not the number one pick. Maybe he's not this. And I'm not going down that road at all by any means right now. But there's development time. Everybody just expects CJ
Yeah.
Stroud out the gate. They expect him to look like Pat Mahomes in his first start because the play style is similar. And it's like sometimes it's not always immediate. You know what I mean? And like Trevor Lawrence was a generational prospect when he came out. And it's like, oh, none of those quarterbacks have ever had the weapons that Caleb has. The weapons don't matter if the quarterback still has to develop. It's not just plug and play. It's NFL systems, NFL defenses, brand new everything for these quarterbacks. And I think we're just you talked about rookie quarterbacks just kind of struggling out the gate. It's like, you got to give players some time. Now,
Yeah.
am I going to give up on Caleb his first season? Absolutely not. But could it be a rough year for him? Absolutely could have some peaks and valleys, man. And I think that's the one thing a lot of people did not count on is there could be peaks and valleys for Caleb Williams this year. It wouldn't surprise me to see him look much better in the second half. But
And
this week against Houston, it might be a struggle for him, bro.
the offensive line, like that's kind of the biggest part too. The middle part of that offensive line was atrocious week 1.
Yeah.
And I mean, the Houston Texans look like they have a pretty solid defense. So this, like you said, it could be another struggle for them offensively once again. So I want to feel comfortable starting them, but if I had to start like once again those 2 wide receivers, I wouldn't mind it, but that's about it.
Yeah, I would until we see Caleb look better. I'm tearing down DJ Moore to like wide receiver 3 territory, Keenan Allen into more like flex territory, and I think DeAndre Swift becomes a flex at best right now until we see more from this offense. Caleb is a back end QB2.
I mean, Swift wasn't even targeted. Like that's bad,
and that's what you were expecting. Like if you drafted him, you're expecting that, especially with this offense. So we'll see how it goes for Chicago moving forward. Another struggling offense, Tyler. Another struggling offense last week against a good Pittsburgh defense. This Atlanta Falcons team. I was very high on this Atlanta offense. Kirk Cousins. We know what the weapons already. Bijan, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, like new offensive coordinator Zach Robinson, and they go out there against Pittsburgh, and I wouldn't call it a dud. It just wasn't a very effective performance. We saw a lot of what we were expecting, though. Heavy Bijan Robinson. First game back for Kirk Cousins, so maybe a little rust there. But players that we were, potentially calling big-time players, Kyle Pitts, had a touchdown, but it wasn't like a big performance. Drake London was damn near invisible. How are you feeling about this Falcons offense, bro? Because I have a very short-term window for where I'm going to allow this. A very short-term window before I start to panic.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't look good either. The biggest problem was truly Kirk Cousins, who I'm a Steelers fan, and like the guy did not move out there. Like he was just a statue. And TJ Watt was able to just mess up that offensive line.
At will.
Yeah, like it was not good. Now the hope is that like Kirk Cousins, coming off the Achilles, might still need a little bit of time to kind of be mobile-ish. Like he's never been a mobile quarterback, but at least like move, step around the pocket, be able to do something, because he couldn't even do that last game. And if like that becomes kind of the headline for weeks ahead, then this is very, it's worrisome, very worrisome, because it's going to affect these receivers, like especially like Kyle Pitts, who played 100% of the snaps. It's going to affect Drake London. I mean, I want to say Ray McLeod was the leader of the weekend in terms of receivers. So it was not good week one. Also, like I do want to say too, like Caleb obviously was playing against a tough defensive line. The Steelers should have one of the best. I mean, this is one of the highest paid defenses in the league. It might be the highest paid defense in the league. So this is a very, very good defense. At least right now, when they're healthy, they should be one of the best defense in the league. So it was a really, really tough matchup. We'll see how it goes in the coming weeks, but it is something that, I'm still keeping an eye on, just to see how Kirk Cousins is able to move throughout the year.
It's I said the word panic, and it's like normally I'd never panic about anything, but I think coming into this scenario, you're hoping Kirk Cousins looks 85 to 95% of himself, and I don't think we saw that. And I know that there was a lot of disruption, and so the reason why I say it's a short-term window is because if it was truly the Steelers defense that was giving them problems, then this is understandable. And this is just an elevation now for the Pittsburgh defense. And we got to know quarterbacks going up against them are going to have some troubles. If this is a Falcons thing, I think we're going to find out here very soon, especially going up against the Eagles team that let Jordan Love, kind of sling the rock around. We got to see what Kirk Cousins looks like. And if he's not fully healthy, this could be a Michael Penix thing come midseason. Like, I don't think there's a very big window for Kirk Cousins to play bad off of this.
That might be good, though.
It might be good. It might be good. And he might be a rookie, too. Like, there's a lot of ifs that come along with that we don't want if you have Falcons players. If you drafted Drake London, chances are you took him as a top 15 receiver in hopes that he looked the part. If you took Kyle Pitts, you took him as a top 5 to 7 tight end in hopes that he looked the part. If you took Bijan Robinson, chances are you had a reach on him at number 1, 2, or 3 running back in hopes that he looked the part. And if this offense can't move with Kirk Cousins, I do have concerns. And this is, I think it's really valid, man, to have, have the expectations and to realign them now. This is, I think it's time. So this Philly game coming up will show me a lot. If the offense can move the ball, we see Kirk in that 225 to 250 range, throw a couple touchdowns, I feel much better about it. If we see another struggle game from Kirk Cousins where he's not able to move around the pocket, not able to drive throws, not able to spread the ball around the way that we're expecting, I'll have some major concerns about this offense. The good thing we saw to Tyler, Bijan Robinson. And obviously I can sit here and continue to glaze the entire episode about Bijan Robinson. How were you feeling about him? I know we were Brees, CMC, Bijan. You and I both were not on CMC, on Bijan and Brees. How are you feeling about Bijan Robinson now in this role, seeing the workload he was getting, bro?
Yeah, I mean, I had him in I had Brees as my RB1 this year, and Bijan was my RB2. I still feel good about it. Obviously, you hope that this Falcons offense can move the ball, sustain drives, that kind of stuff. But yeah, like he was an absolute workhorse. And going forward, if they can move it, like he truly has RB1 overall upside. So if you drafted them, like just pray that Kirk Cousins can, because I do think it's a big matchup this week. Like against that Eagles offense or defensive line, like this could get ugly.
It could get ugly, or I kind of see like this reminds me of like bounce back spot. Kirk Cousins is not good in prime time. This offense struggled. Like this has all the telltale signs of like Atlanta comes in there into Philly and gets a win. So I'm hoping.
What if they get? What if that doesn't happen? What if it's the total opposite?
That is the concern. If Philly comes out there and destroys Atlanta, then that's why I said I think this window is very short because the expectations for this Falcons team, I don't think it's win the division. I think they went all in this year.
Yeah.
And to try to see, like, that's why you go get a Matthew Judon. That's why you go get a Justin Simmons, because you think you have Super Bowl aspirations. And that's why I think you also draft a Michael Penix. Because if Kirk doesn't work out, you're like, nah, we got to get results right now. We're trying to win a Super Bowl. So the division's weak. They'll have opportunity. It has to come this week. And, obviously,
they play Kansas City the week after, too.
Who they got week after?
Kansas City.
That's
the week after.
They can't start 0-3.
That's going to be rough.
They can't start.
Then they play the Saints, and I mean,
division game, tough defense.
It's a tough defense, and the Saints looked really good week 1.
They did. So now, let me ask you this. We didn't see the big game out of Drake London. Are you panicking? I can't remember if you were like big on Drake London this offseason or not, but we didn't have the big game. How are you evaluating Drake London? Are you saying it's time to tear him down? Because there's some players after week 1, I think, with a workload, you could it's time to tear them down. I think there's also players you could look at and say, I need to buy more time. Or there's also players where you could say, I was completely right or completely wrong. I think you can do that. And there's some players you can be like, it's easy to figure out. Have you figured out Drake London, or are you still waiting?
I mean, I guess I'm still waiting, just because if Kirk Cousins, like you said, is able to go out there next week and he looks fine. I really think it's just I don't think that it's Drake London. You know what I mean? I don't think that he's a bad wide receiver. I think he's a very good real life wide receiver. And I think same with Kyle Pitts. I think he's a very good real life tight end. But Kirk Cousins, I mean, you just saw it. Could not get any juice on those throws. Could not fully step into it, and it didn't look good. So, like you said, it's a short window, and if it doesn't look good next week, I'm very concerned about Drake London going forward, and he's definitely going to fall down in my ranks quite a bit, depending on what happens next week.
We didn't see a preseason from any of these starters, so maybe we can attribute it to Russ getting this thing going. So I expect some easy looks for some of these guys, but the Falcons offense, a little bit of a concern, more than I wanted to say after week 1, even up against Pittsburgh. And all eyes will be on this team on Monday night. Oh,
yes, 100%.
There's going to be a lot of eyes on them. All right, and then lastly, let's talk about the Tennessee Titans, man. The Tennessee Titans. At times, this offense looked good against I would say a much improved Bears defense. I think kind of understanding what they did and giving problems to the Titans would not be fair to the Titans. The Bears defense is solid and made them make some mistakes. But oh my Lord, some of the mistakes this team made was just Will Levis, man, just chucking that ball up at the end, giving the game away. Definitely uncalled for. And you also get a punt block return for a TD. So I think this Titans offense had times where it looked good. You got Tony Pollard was running really effectively. We saw some missed throws, missed just timing between Will Levis and Ridley. And there was talk about that during this offseason that they just hadn't found that right connection yet. A lot of expectations from the fantasy community for Calvin Ridley. Some people really expected it. Others expected him to fail him in their opinion once again, obviously. But what do you make of this offense? Because Tyler Boyd is here now, had a couple catches in the game. D-Hop dealing with an MCL tear, not a sprain, an MCL tear. It's been announced to that. And then you got this backfield with Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears. A lot of people assume Tajay Spears would be the guy. Tony Pollard came in, showed a little bit of dominance. Coach speak a little bit this week and said that they want to get Tajay Spears a little bit more involved. What's your thoughts overall on this offense, man? Is it good? Is it bad?
I don't think it's I think it's probably going to be a very average offense. And the problem is just because I think that Will Levis is okay, but he's very inconsistent. And that's just kind of what he was last year, and that's what he looked like in week 1, where he can have some big time throws, but then he has some massive head scratchers. So I think it's just going to be a very inconsistent offense on a play-by-play basis, truly. But there was one clear takeaway from this game, and it does look like, now it's only one game, but it did look like Tony Pollard was the clear lead back in this offense. So I don't want to say he's going to be the bell cow, but with just one game. Maybe next week, this team is playing from behind from a lot of the game because they do have the Jets. And maybe we see Tajay Spears be a lot more involved, and he's this team's clear pass catching back. So, but we have to, kind of see what happens next week. But yeah, I think going forward, like how I view this offense is just going to be very inconsistent. Like this upcoming week, like I'm not very high on any of these guys against the New York Jets. I know the New York Jets got, really kind of beaten up by the San Francisco 49ers, but that's the San Francisco 49ers. Like this is, the New York, or this is the Tennessee Titans. So I'm not very high on them this week, but, had it week to week, they play the Packers. I think that could be a good opportunity for like Tony Pollard to have a pretty good game.
It should be. I think it's going to be a defensive battle here. The Jets and Titans game. It should be a defensive battle. And you talk about the run game, like we saw what Jordan Mason was able to do against his Jets defense. If this Titans offense is going to go or have any success, or we're going to see Will Levis develop consistency, it's got to be through the run game. Because having Will Levis drop back for 40 pass attempts doesn't look like it's going to work out very well. Obviously, the receiving core, you would have loved to see it be a little bit more efficient, but it just seems like Will Levis is kind of the culprit as well. Like he hasn't developed as, you want to see that second year growth. It's not there yet. Maybe it happens throughout the year, but it's not there quite yet. But if Tony Pollard can be the lead back for this team and they can get a little bit more out of Tajay Spears, now we're talking about an offense that can at least move the ball and get us some fantasy points. I think Tajay Spears is due for a bounce back, and the 50-50 comments, I'm not necessarily sure it gets there, but I do think we see more of Tajay Spears. So if you have him, he's not a player I'd panic on. I wouldn't drop him. I would just keep him on your bench for right now. Keep him on your bench. Start Tony Pollard as your RB2 right now. I feel like good about that. But Tajay Spears is a player to watch out for in case there's an elevated role. As far as D-Hop goes, this is a player I've completely tiered out. I'm out on D-Hop, and I'm a big D-Hop guy. It's just when you're playing through a major injury like that, something that typically requires surgery, we got to remember dude is 33 years old. And why is he on the field? It's because he doesn't want to go a year without playing football. He needs the bag. Because if he goes a year without playing football, what happens? He's getting cut. He's not getting signed. Career's probably over. I think that's why D-Hop's playing right now, playing through a major injury. So I would look at Tyler Boyd as a player, like if he's available on your waivers for whatever reason, just keep him stashed on your bench in case this offense gets turned around. But Calvin Ridley will continue to be a wide receiver 3. Will Levis, I don't know, man. I don't know what to think about this guy.
Definitely not this week.
He's tough.
Not this week. This is
not
brutal.
this week.
No.
I just think Will Levis, it was good to see him use his legs in that game. Like that was the one thing last year. I thought he was more mobile coming in and willing to use his legs. He showed that last week. It's just he was so erratic on the throws. Some money throws and some just terrible throws.
Well, it's I forget what it's called. The NFL Stock Exchange. Do you know who they are? It's like kind of
Strike.
No. They're on YouTube. It's like Connor, and they're kind of like PFF.
Okay.
But they talk about college football and like prospects, and they've always kind of said Will Levis is like Anthony Richardson light. Because, like, obviously Anthony Richardson's super, super athletic, but Will Levis is honestly very athletic.
Yes.
And they're both very erratic passers. Like, now, obviously, Will Levis, I don't think any quarterback in the league can do what Anthony Richardson did this past weekend. But, like, Anthony Richardson also only completed 9 passes for 222 yards. So, like, and that's kind of what Will Levis is. Like, he's a light version of Anthony Richardson. He's just not going to ever be like I don't think he'll ever be a high volume passer or a very consistent passer, but he's a guy who's athletic enough. He can get it done on the ground some games. But like this week, I mean, it's just going to be it's a tough matchup where all the like receiving options, passing options in this offense, I would have no interest in starting on this week.
Yeah, it's tough. And I think the one thing I would be looking at here is like, for Ridley, it's a tough matchup, but like this schedule for them, right? And Calvin Ridley's a player I talked up. He's got Jair Alexander after playing Sauce. He's got Jair Alexander the week after that. Then Jaylen Ramsey the week after that. So we don't even really see any hope for him and I think they have a bye week 5. So we don't see really any hope until October. So I wouldn't call Calvin Ridley a buy low player or a player to panic on. It's just after these next few games, after we see a little bit of optimism, then we can start talking about either buy low or just bench option for now. But I think it's Titans offense, man. It's one of those things where I think it's easy. It was easy to get excited about this offseason. We got to see the growth, and we haven't seen it yet. So heading into week 2, man, any other thoughts that you have on this weekend? Anything in general you're looking at? I feel like tight ends. We got to see tight ends play better, bro. Just offense.
Tight ends was awful. I mean, the offenses were just bad this past week. And it was, I don't even want to say it was like encouraging with Thursday Night Football because like Josh Allen didn't have James Cook and really, Devon Achane were the two guys, and that was it. So maybe it's a resurgence of the running back this year, potentially, which would be a good thing because you've seen these wide receivers. Like that was the problem this year. I mean, we talked about this, right? The wide receivers in like the second round, man, like they just did not feel good at all this year. And look what happened. Like you're looking in the second round across the board, and it's like Drake London, Marv, even Devontae Adams, Chris Olave. Like it was just not a good week 1 performance. Obviously, it's only week 1, but maybe we see a resurgence of the running back position finally this year as defenses continue to evolve and they're able to figure out how to slow down these high, prolific offenses. But it's only week 1. We'll have to see. I do have a question though.
Yeah.
Because I just saw an update. Russell Wilson is officially questionable. Do you think he's going to play this week?
I think he's trying to get back for this game. I just don't see a world where it's against Denver. Of course he's trying to get back for this game. He wants that revenge, but I still think Fields is a starter, and he earned that last week because I honestly feel like this too. If Fields goes in there and gets a win against Denver and it's convincing, I don't know how you give the keys back to Russell off a 2-0 start.
That's what I was going to ask you. Like, say Fields is first 3 games he starts, he wins all 3. Russ is back. You think Steelers move off and they just continue to play Fields?
Yeah, I think this is the week if he goes out there against Denver because they were in Atlanta. I think they're in Denver this week too. Yeah. You go pull out 2 road wins for Mike Tomlin as a guy that they, I think you trade for this guy because you want to build him for the future. Like, I don't know, bro. To me, it just seems like that's the move. And
it's not like he didn't play great week 1, but I thought he played like good enough. Obviously, like he was putting him in positions to have the lead, didn't make any mistakes, made good plays, and I think as his game went on, he looked more and more comfortable. So yeah, I mean, I think he looked decent.
And here's the thing with Fields, it's like, we've assumed he's going to be top 5, top 7 type quarterback because of his running ability. I think the Steelers are asking him to do less. Like when he was first named the starter last week, I was like, oh, this is a top 12 start. Like you got to start Fields. I think he's actually going to settle down to like this high end QB2 range if he's a Steelers quarterback because they're not going to ask him to do as much. He's not going to have to use his legs. They're going to ask him to run the offense, run the football, use your legs less, and play quarterback. And if he can prove he can do that, I think he takes a starting spot. The one thing I got to say about week 2 before we get off is I've always been an advocate of no fantasy defenses. I feel like fantasy defenses are where the biggest luck factor comes in. Mm-hmm. And I think I might have to move off of that because these defenses are showing out right now. And it's like, maybe I didn't show the defenses enough love. I've been kickers can always go. Kickers.
Yeah.
Kickers can always go. But I've been a guy that's like defenses just kind of bring like that luck element, but they have a really big impact on the game. As we've seen over the first 2 weeks, like a lot of defensive scores. So I might have to say, you know what? Maybe
bring them back. Defenses. Yeah. No, I play in a lot of leagues that still have defenses. The kickers have gone, but
kickers got to go, bro.
Defenses are still there. So,
all right. Well, best of luck to y'all teams. Everybody watching for week 2. We will see you guys in week 3. Peace out.
Peace.